Welcome to the YouTube channel Max and Mia on Movies. I'm Max.
And I'm Mia. It's great to be back.
Fantastic to have you.
Yeah.
So today we are tackling a big one. We're doing a really intense breakdown of, one of the most talked about, maybe most divisive films in recent memory, the 2025 Netflix political thriller, A House of Dynamite.
Oh, yeah. This movie, it got huge critical acclaim, right? People loved the tension. The realism was just, wow, stunning.
Absolutely. But at the same time, it sparked these huge arguments online, didn't it?
Right.
Mostly down to, its structure, which is pretty unconventional, and of course that ending, that very abrupt, controversial ending.
It really is a film that it refuses to play by the usual rules. It doesn't give you that neat little package. And because of that, it kind of forces you, the viewer, into this place of being really involved, but also, frankly, pretty uncomfortable.
Mm.
So what we want to do today is really dig into it. We've looked at the reviews, the production details, the different takes on the structure. We want to understand how the director, Catherine Bigelow, put this whole high-stakes thing together.
Right. And what are the metaphors really about? What's the deeper meaning?
Yeah.
And why, for a lot of people, is that lack of a clear ending? Yeah. Why is that the whole point?
Exactly.
So that's the plan. We'll get into the amazing production, how they made it feel so incredibly real. Then we'll explore the structure, why it worked for some, and really didn't for others.
But hey, before we jump into the crisis room, if you're watching, could you do us a quick favor?
Yeah, please take just a second right now, hit that like button below. It really helps us out. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already.
And importantly, if you have seen A House of Dynamite, pause right now, go down to the comments, and leave your rating, out of 10, 5 stars, whatever you use, and just a quick sentence on why you gave it that score.
Yeah, we want to know straight away. Where did you land? Were you Team Statement, thinking the ending was genius, or Team Whimper, feeling kind of let down? Let us know.
Okay. Ready to start the clock.
Let's do it. Okay, so the absolute core, the genius really of A House of Dynamite is its premise. It's so simple, but utterly terrifying.
Right. It kicks off, and almost immediately they detect this single nuclear missile, an ICBM. Nobody knows who launched it. It's just there, mid-flight.
Flying over the northwestern Pacific. And within, the first 5 minutes, they confirm the trajectory. It's headed straight for Chicago, the metro area.
And bam, right there, Bigelow sets the film's main constraint.
This brutal ticking clock. 20 minutes. 20 minutes until impact.
The stakes are just immediate. 20 minutes until, unimaginable devastation.
Yeah.
Millions dead. And almost certainly the start of World War III.
Yeah, the tension isn't something that builds slowly. It's like flicking a switch. It's on full blast from the get-go, and it stays there because of how real everything feels.
That initial reaction you see from the analysts, it's so telling, isn't it? That sort of bureaucratic assumption.
Yeah, like, it's probably just a test. Maybe North Korea messing around, something that'll just splash down harmlessly.
Exactly. They're relying on what usually happens. It's that initial, almost casual, it's probably nothing, that makes the confirmation, when it comes, so shocking, so real. And the speed of that shift, from kind of skeptical disbelief to just sheer terror, it's instantaneous once that ballistic trajectory is locked in. And then the problems just start piling up, compounding immediately. It's bad enough a missile's coming, but then the systems designed to stop it, they fail spectacularly.
Totally. They tried the interceptor missiles, the big defense shield stuff.
Yeah.
Fails completely.
They try using the DSP satellites, the Defense Support Program, which are supposed to be the first line of warning.
Yeah, the eyes in the sky.
Right. And even those are either not enough or somehow bypassed. It leads to this complete paralysis in the system. It just doesn't work.
Let's just pause on that failure for a second because it's so critical to the whole film. You're talking about this multi-trillion-dollar defense network, right? Built for exactly this scenario. And the film shows it being basically useless against this one specific threat.
And the research they did, apparently it was extensive, looking into the actual specs, the limitations of things like the ground-based mid-course defense, a GMD system.
So it didn't just fail randomly.
No, it failed because of real-world limitations. Maybe the ICBM used decoys, or it was maneuvering in some advanced way, or maybe just, the sheer lack of time to coordinate a proper intercept at that range.
On that failure, that the system itself can't protect the country when it matters most, that forces the people in charge into this just impossible situation.
Because nobody knows who fired it or why. So the clock's ticking down, and the White House Strategic Command, they're stuck. It's a total lose-lose.
The dilemma is just stark. What do? Do you just take the hit? Millions of Americans die.
Yeah.
You look weak. Maybe invite more attacks later.
Or do you retaliate?
Yeah.
Blindly. Pick who you think did it and launch back. Start World War III, potentially against a country that was completely innocent.
That uncertainty, that's the real enemy in the movie, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the way this impossible mess is handled, it feels terrifyingly real. And that's down to the director, Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah, her track record speaks for itself. The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30. She's a master at finding tension in these high-pressure, bureaucratic, military world.
It's not about big explosions with her. It's about process breaking down. It's about human stress.
And the production quality here is just, it's top-notch in creating that feeling of controlled chaos.
They did so much research. You see it in the little things. The command center sets look right. The military jargon sounds authentic. The procedures, the chain of command at Stratcom.
Yeah, U.S. Strategic Command. It all feels, like one review said, frighteningly realistic, utterly believable.
It's the exact opposite of how Hollywood usually does this stuff, right? You don't get the president yelling dramatic orders in some perfectly lit, stylized Oval Office.
No way. You get these frantic video calls that keep freezing, people bumping into each other in crowded hallways, orders being whispered down crackly phone lines. It's messy.
And the way it's shot reinforces that. It's got that mockumentary feel, that fly-on-the-wall thing. Shaky cam, mostly handheld.
Which is crucial, I think. It pulls you right in. There's no distance. It feels like that tense, claustrophobic style you see in shows like Succession. The camera isn't just watching the chaos. It's like it's part of it. It's whipping around, catching every bit of panic, every doubt on someone's face.
That handheld feel just grounds it all in this immediate, very present sense of dread.
And then the cast they got to live through this chaos. I mean,
What?
wow. Idris Elba as the president, Jared Harris, Rebecca Ferguson, Gabriel Basso, Moses Ingram, Jason Clarke. Just an incredible lineup.
Yeah, a stellar ensemble. And the key thing about the performances is how grounded they all are. Mature, believable. Nobody's chewing the scenery.
Which is important because of the way the film's structured, right? The perspective keeps shifting.
Exactly. No single actor gets to dominate. The focus isn't really on one hero. It's on the system itself and all these flawed, totally overwhelmed people stuck inside it.
Idris Elba, I thought, was particularly brilliant at showing a leader who's just run out of options, that kind of moral paralysis. He's confident, sure, but also just deeply human and vulnerable.
And apparently, the actors actually spent time talking with military advisors, strategic consultants, to really get the weight of the language they were using, the processes they were acting out.
You can feel that. It comes through. Every time someone mentions, like, a DEFCON change or some command protocol, it lands with this chilling weight of reality. It's not just technobabble.
Even the sound design adds to the dread, that recurring musical bit in the final minutes. It's not some big swelling orchestra.
No, it's sparse, almost like a mechanical heartbeat. It's just pure existential dread, amplified by the sound. It marks the time passing relentlessly. Every second feels heavy.
So, yeah, part one just perfectly sets the stage. It builds this foundation of terrifying, totally believable realism, which then makes the structural experiment they try next even more impactful or frustrating, depending on your view.
Okay, so we've got the realism, the tension is sky high. Now let's get into the thing that really split the audience right down the middle, the structure.
Yeah, this is where the film gets unconventional. It takes that initial 20-minute crisis.
That intense countdown.
Right, and it stretches it out into almost a full 2-hour movie. How? By constantly hitting rewind, basically, skipping back.
It uses this lifting narrative. You live through the same core 20 minutes of crisis, but you see it multiple times, like 3 separate times throughout the film.
And each time, the focus shifts. You might start with the military guys at Stratcom, see their 20 minutes, then whoosh, back to the start, and now you're following the Secretary of Defense for those same 20 minutes.
And then the third loop, it's mostly centered on the president and his team in the White House bunker.
And this decision, this structure, this is where viewers really divided. Was it brilliant? Did it offer deeper clarity? Or was it just deeply frustrating, agonizing even?
Let's look at the positive side first, the argument for it, the idea that it provided clarity.
Okay, so for people who like this approach, they felt that multiple perspectives weren't just repetitive, they were additive. Each loop added layers. It was this clever way to build a full 360-degree picture of a huge systemic crisis.
Yeah, you get to see how all the different pieces are moving simultaneously, which you couldn't do in a straight linear story.
Right. It captures the sheer volume of stuff happening all at once during a major event.
I have to admit, I kind of fell into this camp. I found it really rewarding if you were paying attention. It felt almost like a cinematic jigsaw puzzle.
How so?
Well, the plot doesn't really move forward in time much, but it expands sideways. Like in the first loop, you might hear some muffled shouting in the background of a phone call, just noise.
Okay.
But then in the second loop, suddenly you're in that room where the shouting was happening. You see who it was, why they were panicking, you get the context that was missing before.
Ah, right. So it creates this kind of dramatic irony. The audience gets bits and pieces of information from different angles, and you have to stitch them together yourself across the loops.
Exactly. And that's how the film teases out some key things like what happens to Reed Baker, Jared Harris's character. You don't fully grasp his story until the third loop gives you that crucial emotional piece, his final phone call.
So it keeps you engaged, not just passively watching, but actively assembling the narrative, trying to figure out how it all fits.
It turns the usual crisis thriller into more of a structural puzzle. The suspense isn't just what happens next, but how does this piece of information explain what I already saw?
Okay. But then there's the other side, the strong counter-argument, the deep frustration this structure caused for a lot of people.
Yeah, this is where many critics and viewers felt the film completely fell apart. Someone famously called it the ultimate blue ball scenario.
Ouch. Yeah. That captures the feeling of constantly being led towards some kind of progression, some consequence, only to have the rug pulled out and the clock reset back to 20 minutes.
And the arguments from these critics is, look, if you're going to use a multi-perspective structure like this, it has to do something. It should ideally deepen our understanding, or maybe reframe the characters in a significant way, or crucially, it should answer questions raised earlier.
Right. And this is where the frustrated viewers felt, well, betrayed. Because the big mysteries. Who fired the missile? Why did they do it? Was it someone on the inside? Sabotage. Was it another country just taking advantage of the chaos?
None of it gets answered, ever.
Exactly. So from this negative viewpoint, the perspective shifts didn't really add enough. They just stretched out the tension, delayed the inevitable impact, without giving enough thematic payoff or answering those burning questions.
The feeling is that maybe the loops don't fundamentally change how you see the core problem. So the repetition starts to feel like a gimmick.
Yeah, like a way to avoid having to write a full 2-hour linear story that actually goes somewhere and has a resolution.
The frustration comes from investing all this time, like an hour and 40 minutes, inside this pressure cooker, watching these incredible actors going through hell.
Waiting for the payoff, the impact, the decision, the retaliation, something.
And the structure just actively denies you that. So if you're used to traditional storytelling, that lack of catharsis, that lack of payoff, it just feels anticlimactic.
It really is the definition of narrative avoidance for those who see it that way. It promises consequence and then just stops.
Okay, look, this debate about the structure is key. But before we dig into the meaning behind it all, the metaphors Bigelow was clearly aiming for, let's just take a quick breather.
Yeah, good idea. And hey, if you're finding this breakdown interesting, if you're enjoying the discussion, please just take a second now to hit that like button.
And maybe just double check that you are subscribed to the channel. It honestly makes a huge difference and lets us keep doing these kinds of analyses on complex films like this one.
Okay, so we've talked about the mechanics of the story, the structure. Now let's pivot. Let's talk about the why, the meaning behind it all. Because whether you loved the structure or absolutely hated it, you can't deny this movie has some serious thematic weight.
All right, moving past the mechanics, the loops, the structure. Let's talk about why this film resonated so much, why it got that critical acclaim despite the divisive structure. It's really in the thematic depth.
Definitely. And it starts with the title itself, A House of Dynamite. That's not just a cool, catchy title. It's the absolute central metaphor for the whole film.
Yeah, it's chillingly accurate, isn't it? It's saying that the world we live in is this house of dynamite. It's packed full of nuclear weapons. We have all these plans, these protocols ready to go.
The walls are basically, ready to blow at any moment. And yet, we just carry on. We live our lives mostly ignoring this huge existential threat hanging right over us. Aware, maybe, but kind of oblivious at the same time.
And Bigelow really leans into this. She doesn't just leave it at the title. She uses that recurring visual motif, the dinosaur and the meteorite.
Oh, yeah, that's powerful. You see it right at the beginning, and it keeps coming back through Olivia Walker's story, her son's obsession with his toy meteorite and the whole extinction event.
It's a devastating bit of symbolism, really. It takes this huge, abstract idea, a nuclear annihilation, and connects it to something personal, a parent's fear for their child.
And the film explicitly says it. This missile, this unattributed ICBM, it is our own meteorite. It's the thing we created that could just wipe us out, send us back to square one, just like the dinosaurs.
It's a stark reminder that for all our progress, we built the tools for our own instant extinction. And that threat exists kind of separate from politics or morality. It's just there.
And beyond that existential dread, the film works as this really potent critique, an indictment even of the very systems we built supposedly to keep us safe.
That's maybe the most terrifying takeaway. Even with all the money poured into defense, all the intelligence gathering, all the contingency plans they practiced, when the real unprecedented crisis hits, nobody actually knows what to do.
You see that chaos depicted so realistically, the video feeds dropping out, people talking over each other, the raw panic, the sheer disorganization.
And the internal splits, the division between the people pushing for diplomacy, de-escalation, and the ones demanding immediate military action, just to look strong.
It shows how impossible it is to get everyone on the same page, to act rationally when you've got a 20-minute deadline and you don't even know who the enemy is. The lack of real preparedness is kind of shocking.
One of the moments that really hit me was the president, the guy who has to make the final call, turning to his wife for advice in that private moment.
Yeah. His wife, who has zero security clearance, no intel briefings, no part in the official decision-making process at all.
It's incredibly humanizing for his character. You see the weight on him.
Yeah.
But it's also terrifying from a systemic view.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that all those carefully prepared plans, the red folders, they just fall apart the second things go off script.
Right. The system is built for plan A, B, C. But when scenario Z suddenly appears, the most powerful person on Earth is basically asking his spouse, what do you think I should do?
And the film constantly focuses on the personal cost for these decision makers, too. They have to put on this face, this cold, competent act. They almost have to dehumanize themselves to function.
To get the job done.
Exactly. While inside, they're dealing with intense fear and grief, worrying about their own families.
Bigelow is so good at showing those little cracks in the facade, like that character Beeringer, who just casually mentions his wife is 6 months pregnant. It's just a line, but it grounds everything.
Yeah.
The abstract geopolitical crisis suddenly becomes about his future, his family that he's trying to save.
Or the president calling his wife. These aren't just throwaway details. They anchor the drama, stop it from becoming just, dots on a map.
But the killer line, the one that just cuts through everything, belongs to Jared Harris's character, Reed Baker, the Secretary of Defense, when he just says simply, my daughter's in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. That line is like a weapon. It slices through all the policy talk, the deterrence theory, everything. It brings the crisis right down to the most personal, devastating level imaginable, irreparable loss.
The film keeps forcing that conflict. The need to focus on the global picture versus the unbearable weight of what it means for you personally. You and the decision makers can never forget the human cost. Their own families are on the line.
And that contrast, it extends outside the bunker too, right? To the ordinary people.
Oh, absolutely. Because the whole film is stuck in that 20-minute window, Bigelow keeps cutting away to these little scenes of everyday life. People walking in parks, having lunch, sitting in a doctor's waiting room.
Completely oblivious. They have no idea what's coming.
And that oblivious normality, that might be the most damning indictment of the whole system. We, the audience, are trapped in the bunker with the decision makers, hyper-aware of every single second ticking down, stressed out of our minds.
Like those people on screen. They know nothing. They're just living their lives inside this House of Dynamite, totally dependent on a system that, as we've seen, is incredibly fragile.
It hammers home the message. If a real system-breaking event like this happened, most people would get zero warning. None. Until the sky lights up. Their entire existence depends on the choices being made by these few panicked people we're watching.
And one last thing on the metaphor is the Gettysburg scene, the reenactment.
Right. That was a brilliant touch. Showing the reenactment of the Battle of Gettysburg, the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, over 50,000 casualties across 3 days, a horrific number for that time.
The contrast is the whole point. It pits the brutality of old warfare against the sheer scale of modern danger. Gettysburg was days, 50,000 lives. Chicago, millions. Instantly.
It uses history to show how terrifyingly the scale of conflict has changed, how much higher the stakes are now compared to even the most devastating wars of the past. It's designed purely to horrify you with that comparison.
So as these narrative loops cycle closer and closer to the actual 0 hour, the focus kind of shifts, doesn't it? From the system breaking down to these moments of intense personal tragedy.
Yeah, it culminates in two really unforgettable, deeply symbolic human moments right near the end. We have to talk about Reed Baker first. Jared Harris's character, the Secretary of Defense.
His story is just heartbreaking. And it's revealed piece by piece through the loops, right? We see the result, him walking off the roof way before we understand the reason.
Exactly. He takes his own life, and it's directly after that final devastating phone call with his daughter, who we know is in Chicago, right in the blast zone, certain to die.
It's such a quiet tragedy compared to the noise and chaos all around him. And what he gets from that last call, it's so small, so desperate. He finds this tiny bit of comfort knowing she wasn't totally alone.
Yeah, she was seeing someone new, they were walking together, so his comfort is just that maybe she wouldn't die alone and afraid, that she'd have some human connection at the very end.
And the interpretation, based on those little clues, the photos on his desk, it seems his wife had already passed away.
Right, so with his daughter about to die, the last person he loved, he's facing this future of just absolute emptiness. A life that, for him, just isn't worth living anymore.
His choice feels like more than just despair. It's almost like a final act of agency when he's otherwise completely powerless. He's the Secretary of Defense, one of the most powerful men on the planet.
But he can't save his own child.
So his suicide becomes this awful, final way to exert some control over his own fate, rejecting the horror of having to watch his world end from inside that bunker.
And then, in stark contrast to Baker's quiet, internal despair, you have the soldier, Gonzalez.
Ah, yeah, the technician, the guy who was actually working on the intercept system that failed, the grunt level guy.
His failure was technical, right? But his reaction, his grief, becomes profoundly moral. He's shown outside the command center just collapsing, falling to his knees, completely breaking down.
And it's triggered by what he sees on the screen, isn't it? That final confirmation.
Yeah.
100% probability of impact.
Yeah.
Projected death toll in the millions.
It's the sheer crushing weight of that number. That inevitable catastrophic loss, it just breaks him. He didn't just mess up at work. He feels responsible. He couldn't stop it. He couldn't save those millions. And that knowledge, that certainty of the horror to come, he just can't cope with it. His breakdown is just raw, visceral.
These two moments, Baker's internal reasoned suicide driven by love and loss, and Gonzalez's external emotional collapse driven by failure and the scale of death.
They're deliberately set against something else we saw glimpses of earlier, the evacuation.
Right. Those chilling shots of certain government officials being quietly led onto buses, driven away to safety. Their survival guaranteed while millions are about to be incinerated.
It throws that brutal divide into sharp relief, doesn't it? Life and death decided by who's in the know, who has the institutional privilege to be saved.
Those people getting on the bus, they benefit from the system's information control. They knew, so they lived. Baker's daughter, the people in Chicago, even Gonzalez, who tried and failed, they're all left behind. It shows the system protects its own core first.
And Gonzalez's breakdown happening right before that final cut to black, it serves a purpose too. It rams home the severity. It confirms for us, the audience, beyond any shred of doubt, this is happening. The missile will land. The cost will be catastrophic.
It maximizes the horror just before the film pulls its final, most controversial move. Okay, we're here. The most debated, most explosive part of the whole film.
Yeah.
The ending. Or, well, the lack of one.
Right. We're in the absolute final moments of that 20-minute countdown. The president, Idris Elba, is sitting alone. He's got this open folder in front of him, presumably, his retaliation options. He's about to make that impossible choice.
And then, bang, cut to black, credits roll, nothing.
That abruptness, that complete lack of resolution, that is the ending. And it's both the core of the film's message and the reason so many people hated it.
It leaves you hanging with these massive questions. Did he launch? Did he retaliate blindly against someone, anyone? Or did he just let the U.S. take the hit, absorb the blow, and deal with the fallout? Or did the impact happen before he could even choose?
We just don't know.
Let's break down the two main interpretations. First, interpretation A. The ending is the message. It's a powerful statement.
Yeah, the argument here is that this ambiguous, sudden ending wasn't a cop-out. It was a deliberate philosophical choice. And it actually makes the film more impactful than any clear resolution ever could have been.
How so?
Well, think about it. If Bigelow had shown the missile hitting Chicago, what would that be? Standard disaster movie stuff? Shock, horror, maybe some scenes of aftermath. Catharsis? But predictable.
Okay.
If she'd revealed who launched it, becomes a political thriller. You've got your villain, your motive. Again, more conventional.
Right.
By refusing any resolution, the film denies us that easy satisfaction, that closure. Instead, it forces us, the audience, to sit with the underlying dread, to grapple with the impossible moral questions ourselves.
It mirrors that lose-lose situation that the whole film built up. The president's choices were all horrific. Taking the hit meant millions of American deaths. Retaliating meant starting World War III, killing millions elsewhere, possibly based on a guess.
There was no good choice. The whole point was the impossibility. So if the film had just ended with him making a rational, decisive move, it would have kind of undermined the 100 minutes of sheer panic and paralysis we just witnessed. The ambiguity keeps that paralysis alive forever.
It's like the director turns the camera around at the last second, points it at the audience, and says, okay, you finish it. What happens now?
Exactly. The idea is that it forces the message, the terrifying reality of living on the nuclear brink, to sit with us for longer. We have to internalize it, realize this isn't just a movie scenario, it could be real. We have to complete the storyboard in our own heads.
And if you think about the geopolitical logic, the MAD doctrine, mutually assured destruction.
Right. That doctrine almost demands a strong, immediate response to an attack, even an unattributed one, just to project strength and deter future attacks.
So some analysts argue the president was likely looking at options to strike back at a suspected aggressor, even if it was just a guess, because appearing weak might be seen as even more dangerous in the long run.
That's the ultimate horrifying calculus, isn't it? Is the potential fallout from looking weak worse than the certainty of starting a global nuclear war based on incomplete information? The cut to black leaves that terrifying question hanging.
Okay, but then we have interpretation B. The ending is a massive letdown. The cinematic whimper.
Yeah, this side felt completely cheated. After all that incredible tension building, the technical brilliance, the great acting, for the film to just stop, it felt like a cheap trick, a failure to deliver.
People in this camp felt the structure was just an elaborate way to avoid having to actually write an ending. They called it underwhelming, frustrating, bizarre.
The feeling was, why invest us so heavily in this crisis, put us through this ringer for 2 hours, and then just do nothing with it, do fuck all with any of it, as one critic put it.
The core problem for these viewers was that the message seemed too simple. Okay, nuclear war is bad. We get it. We knew that coming in.
Right.
By avoiding the consequences, by not showing the impact or revealing the cause, did the film really add anything new to our understanding? Or did it just state the obvious in a frustrating way?
They wanted that oomph factor, that catharsis, that memorable climax that pays off 2 hours of tension. And by denying that, the film felt incomplete, unsatisfying. It left them asking, seriously, what was the point of all that?
So the structural choice, which was maybe intended to elevate the film, ended up being the very thing that alienated a huge chunk of the audience who just wanted a story with, an ending.
It really boils down to that classic debate. Should a film give the audience what it expects, satisfy that narrative craving, or should it deliberately subvert expectations to make a more profound, maybe more disturbing point?
And House of Dynamite clearly chose the second path. Yeah. I think, for me, ultimately, I land more on the side of it being a statement. The film's success is in how perfectly it nails the tone, the music, the look, the performances. Everything feels right. It poses these terrifying, maybe unanswerable questions about how prepared we really are, about probability versus reality in the nuclear age.
And maybe that is the ultimate terror. Because we see how fragile the system is, how human and flawed the decision makers are, how incredibly high the stakes are. The fact that there is no easy answer in the film becomes the most terrifying answer of all.
It pushes the film beyond just being entertainment.
Yeah.
It becomes this piece of, active political philosophy. It refuses to let you off the hook.
It demands that you confront the fact that we are all permanently living in that house of dynamite. And that final choice, that split second before the cut, absorption, or escalation, that's the part of the storyboard we have to fill in. We, the citizens.
So, wrapping it all up, A House of Dynamite uses incredible realism and tension, masterful direction, but then employs this really divisive structure in that non-ending.
As a deliberate statement about the brutal reality of modern conflict, about who controls information, and about the sheer moral impossibility of making a clean choice when nuclear weapons are involved.
It's a film that actively denies you satisfaction, specifically so that the unsettling feeling, the questions, stay with you long after it's over.
And now, we really want to know what you think, building on all this discussion, especially about that ending.
Right. Think about that final moment. The president, the folder, the countdown nearly at zero. Considering the lose-lose options, the pressures, the deterrence strategies we touched on, do you believe the president retaliated blindly, potentially starting World War III, or did he absorb the attack without response? What do you think happened in that unseen moment, and why?
Let us know your specific take on what the president decided and your overall thoughts on the movie down in the comment section. We're really keen to read your interpretations.
And hey, one last reminder before you go. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed to Maximia on Movies for more film breakdowns like this.
And maybe share this video with someone you know who's seen the film or someone who needs to understand why it caused such a stir.
Thank you so much for joining us for this analysis. It was a heavy one.
It really was. Thanks for watching, everyone.
We'll see you in the next one.